Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I call to order the special meeting of the Mayor and City Council at 5:06 p.m. Welcome and thank you for being here, and thank you for those viewing remotely. I call to order this joint special meeting of the Mayor and City Council and the Mayor and City Council acting as the successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency of the City of San Bernardino. Pastor James Grant of Solidar for Christ Church will lead tonight's invocation, and Aseli Quevedo from Davidson Elementary School will lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance. Please approach to the podium. And please rise.
Good evening, everyone. Let's pray. Could you bow your heads? Lord God, in the name of Jesus Christ, we pray that you give the leaders of San Bernardino, California, clarity of mind to do what's right for the people of this great city. Continue to keep each of these leaders safe and all that dwell in and around the San Bernardino area. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Please place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Did you say she's from Davidson Elementary?
Yes, she is.
That's my alma mater.
Oh, look at that.
Long time ago.
Thank you, Pastor Grant, and thank you, Azayali, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem. Here. Councilmember Reynoso.
Here.
Councilmember Calvin.
Present.
Councilmember Alexander.
Here.
Mayor Tran.
Here. Before we conduct city business, as a friendly reminder, as the elected leaders of the city, we shall endeavor to be respectful to each other, our public, and especially our staff. Our behavior this evening sets the tone for how our residents, business community, and others view our city. We must conduct city business with professionalism and respectful behavior to build trust, credibility, and move our city forward. We shall commit to these values and foster a positive and productive working environment that is conducive to achieving our goals effectively and efficiently. I believe we had a presentation, but it got pulled.
Yes, we did have one. We also have Mr. Corey is going to do the city manager's update.
Okay, thank you, Mr. City Manager. So at this time, we are moving to public comments. Will be heard for items 2 through 16 on the special meeting agenda. To address the City Council, everyone must complete a speaker card and provide it to the City Clerk. Only those speaker cards turned into the City Clerk will be allowed to address the City Council. No late cards will be accepted. Each person should state their name for the record. If you do require a Spanish interpretation, we do have an interpreter on site. Please raise your hand at this time to indicate translation assistance. In addition, we have interpreting listening devices available in the back.
En este momento se escucharán los comentarios públicos. Para dirigirse al Consejo Municipal, cada individuo debe completar una tarjeta de orador. Se debe completar la tarjeta de orador y entregarla a la secretaria municipal en este momento. Solo aquellas tarjetas de orador entregadas a la secretaria municipal podrán dirigirse al Consejo Municipal. No se aceptarán tarjetas tardías. Cada persona debe indicar su nombre para el registro. A las 8 p.m. pasaremos a las audiencias públicas y completaremos el resto de los comentarios públicos después de cerrar la última audiencia pública. Si necesita interpretación en español, tenemos un intérprete presente. Por favor, levante la mano en este momento para indicar que requiere servicios. También tenemos aparatos disponibles para escuchar la Junta en español. Si no recibimos la solicitud para los servicios de interpretación antes de las 9, el intérprete se retirará.
Because you give me that.
Gracias, thank you. Madam City Clerk, how many speakers do we have?
2.
Two. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Madam City Clerk?
Mayor, Council, if I may.
Yes.
Item number 10 is going to be pulled, in case I forget, on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Georgia L. Sharon Negretti.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Georgia. Over the past year, I have observed budget changes and witnessed the citywide creation of many top-level, high-salary positions, in addition to promotions and proposed raises in salary within animal services, which many feel are unmerited and seem disproportionate to the needs of our community. Despite the availability of generous grants totaling over $3 million meant to benefit the members of our community, there has been a lack of implementation of any programs and initiatives that were promised to us. While recognizing the importance of supporting our animal services, it is crucial that we strike a balance between these issues and addressing critical infrastructure needs that impact the daily lives of our residents. Essential projects like much-needed street repairs should not be overshadowed by these increases. Because of these concerns, I ask Council to reassess spending decisions and reallocate resources to address pressing community needs. I also urge the Council to give priority to the immediate requirements of our Animal Services Department, including the shortage of line-level workers such as kennel attendants and animal control officers. These frontline workers play a crucial role in the effective functioning of our animal services and should be prioritized over increases in other areas within this department. Also, the additional increase in the veterinarian salary is a step in the right direction, but not sufficient to attract and retain qualified professionals in our city. The competitive offers being extended to graduates by external recruiters, including substantial starting salaries of $175,000, generous sign-on bonuses, and student loan repayment offers of up to $250,000, pose a challenge to our efforts to maintain a skilled workforce. To address these challenges and ensure the efficient use of our resources for a house veterinarian, I propose a strategic reallocation of funds. By reallocating a portion of the budget, such as the $350,000 from the defaulted advanced pet care contract, and combining it with funds from the proposed salary adjustments, $150,000, bringing the total potential offer of $500,000, we could potentially attract and retain 2 highly skilled veterinarians at a competitive salary of $250,000 each. This approach would help us optimize our budget, benefiting both the Animal Services Department and the community that is desperate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Sharon Negretti.
Hello, I'm Sharon Negretti. Hello, City Council and Mayor. I am also talking about the proposition number 3 on your agenda. I'm deeply troubled by the idea of amending the salary of our animal shelter director, considering recent distressing events. Have any of you conducted surprise visits to the shelter to witness the disarray firsthand? If it is imperative to understand the reality at the animal shelter before endorsing this raise, which I'm sure you have already approved. From the 86 adoptable dogs euthanized to this date, to the mishandling of the adoption event that was scheduled on the same day as the Lunar New Year celebration, and then exclusive spay and neuter clinics that were not publicized to the city of San Bernardino residents. Some people witnessed dogs going into our new donated mobile veterinary unit from San Manuel, meant entirely for San Bernardino residents. As stated in the press release, it's evident that these actions lack respect and concern for our community animals and our citizens, not to mention the taxpayers' dollars. And what are the implications for our partnership with San Manuel? Supporting a raise to an individual displaying such substandard performance is a disservice to our city and its animals. The absence of a TNR program, trap, neuter, release, when we are about to enter cat season is undoubtedly, I mean, it's going to increase the suffering of cats. It's time to prioritize accountability and the well-being of our animal population over misguided decisions. City Council, it's imperative to wake up and prioritize the welfare of all. I'm sorry, I lost my place. To the citizens observing, remember the individuals who advocated for this unwarranted raise. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the speakers.
Thank you. Moving on to city manager report.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Mr. Corey is going to present the city manager's report for today.
Could you bring up the PowerPoint presentation, please? Thank you. And good evening, Mayor and City Council and members of the public that are viewing. I'm Corey Hodges from the City Manager's Office, and I'd love to bring this report to you. Can we go to the first slide, please? All right, I can do it. New kitchen at Fish Street Senior Center. Really exciting. It's a hub for senior meal program in partnership with the county. They prepare over 68,000 meals per year. My mother is a caregiver, so I know how wonderful this service is. So we're really thankful to the county, and it's very exciting. If you have time, please go down and check it out. Chubsy's grand opening, March 7th. I'm really excited about this. I love burgers and fries. I checked out the menu before I came down. They have awesome loaded fries. Everybody, please come down, 3 p.m., Thursday, March 7th, 2344 Sterling Avenue. And the really cool thing about this is it's a local success story. Owner Victor Velasquez started Chubby's as a pop-up, and now he's got his own restaurant. I think that's amazing. We're really thankful for him investing in the community, bringing a great restaurant down to us, City of San Bernardino. I'm going to go down there. Please join us. Next slide, please. Home to Suites grand opening. This is another grand opening, March 12th. It's a 113-room Home to Suites. It's a Hilton property. 4:30 p.m. we'll have a ribbon cutting at 837 North Briar Drive. It's the intersection between Hospitality Lane and Tippecanoe. And this is also another really exciting aspect added to the Hospitality Lane zone, so please come down. When I first saw this photo, I thought, the landscaping is great. I'm a big garden and plant lover, and it looks very warm and exciting, so please come down and join us. Again, March 12th, 4:30, ribbon cutting, Hospitality Lane and Tippecanoe. Next slide, please. Bryce Haynes Beautification, the public works team who works so hard. They were out there at Bryce Haynes Park and John Cole Skate Park. They did a lot of work. It looks beautiful, trimming trees, new landscaping, interior and exterior paint. I know the community is really going to enjoy this. And I want to big thanks to the Public Works Department. They work extremely hard. And please go out if you have time. I know the weather is going to change a little bit for us in the next few days, so please go out to that park and check it out. This is a big one. I went on the city's website before I came down. The broadband survey. It's only a few questions. It's really, really important that everybody takes the time. It's 2 clicks on our banner. So if you click on the banner arrow twice, you'll get to the survey. And there's actually a grant from the California Public Utilities Commission that the city was awarded that gave us the money to develop a broadband master plan, which your responses will be extremely helpful in us finishing. And the most important thing about this survey is when the federal dollars start coming down for state and federal funding for broadband, we'll be in a great position if we have the great responses, if we know exactly where we need to deploy broadband. So please take your time and fill out this survey. Next slide. City news. This is awesome. Josh Dramatinos, he's been serving as a real property manager. He's been named Deputy Director of Economic Development. Congratulations, Josh. He's a real estate professional. He has over 14 years of public and private sector experience. He's been with the city for the last 2 years. I've personally worked with Josh. He's fantastic. Really, really proud of him, and congratulations, Josh. And then the Parks Department. They're always winning awards. At the CPRS conference, the California Parks and Recreation Society conference, the city picked up 3 awards. The first one was an Excellence in Community Award for the Dia de los Muertos event. And then Project Fighting Chance received a Community Champion Award. And then the wonderful director, Liddy Gutfield, won a 100 award for bringing inclusive, accessible, aquatic, intensive training to professionals throughout the state. So, yes. Very proud of all those updates. Thank you, Mayor and City Council.
Thank you so much for that wonderful update. Now, I believe we had one more public comment that we missed.
Yes, for Treasurer Ortiz.
It's part of the special meeting. That's fine.
Yeah, so you could speak, Ms. Ortiz.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight you are going to be discussing potential litigation from Steve Kerrigan, the previous candidate for city manager. And I find that really interesting, given the fact that on August 26th, he publicly acknowledged to his own city that I am a finalist for the city manager job with the city of San Bernardino. When a decision is made, I will share it with you. That then became public down here a day later. His own staff acknowledged that he was taking this opportunity and said they would never fault an individual for trying to advance their career. Then on September 28th, he put out a statement that said, over the past few weeks, I have had time to think about what's important to me from a professional and personal standpoint, and I've decided that Salinas is the best place for me. Early this morning, I contacted the recruiter and removed my name from consideration for this position for the San Bernardino city manager. Carrington added that he could not see himself working anywhere else in Salinas. He has helped make progress with major issues in homelessness, affordable housing. So why would you sue us if you pulled out of your own recruitment, said you've never been happier in your own city, and publicly disclosed that you were a candidate before anybody else? This is the type of stuff that is ridiculous. And as you guys walk into closed session, please make sure that you guys are reflecting the record, that you know exactly what transpired, so that we don't have somebody try to take our money because he then got fired a week later. And truly and honestly, what was coming out of Salinas was that this was his last chance anyways, and if he didn't find gainful employment somewhere else, they were already gonna let him go. Don't make him our problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to this consent calendar, items 2 to 16. Is there Councilmember Alexander? 15 is to 13 from Councilmember Calvin, 15 from Councilmember Alexander. Any other items to be pulled?
Question on 16.
Question on 16 by Councilmember Sanchez. Seeing Nothing else? Can someone motion?
I'll move the
There's-
balance.
There's a motion to move the balance? And set their second.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Why is the multiple
Yes.
vouchers on there?
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Reynoso.
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Consent passes unanimously, actually,
Thank-
6-1, sorry.
Thank you. Let's start with item 13.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. Yes, so who is my question going to?
Mayor, Council, Councilmember Calvin, go ahead. I'll answer it.
Okay, all right. So what I wanted to make sure of was that all three of these motels, that they're in good standing with the city, no code enforcement violations, no outstanding fees, and there are no additional funds that we have to give them in order to utilize their motels for our services.
Mayor, Councilmember Calvin, no. These additional hotels are coming off the second RFP that we let you all know that we're going to do, because it was one hotel and there were other hotels outside the municipal boundaries of the city. So these are only hotels in the city, and this is the second RFP that we've gone through the process, and that is correct. Your statement's correct.
What is correct?
No, they are being paid the same amount as other hotels in the first slew of RFPs.
Right, what I was saying though, as we enter into partnership with these three motels, I wanted to make sure that these three motels are in good standings with the city of San Bernardino, no code enforcement violations that are outstanding, right? No fees, no citations that they have not paid, because I don't think that they should be able to benefit if they have outstanding citations with code enforcement, and then there are no additional fees that are going to be needed. So you're answering yes to all three of those questions, sir.
Councilmember Calvin, that is correct. We will double check to make sure that's the case. If there is an issue there, we will make sure we absolve it before we move forward with that hotel. But I believe everything's fine.
So you'll be bringing that back to the council then, that you
We
have
will-
verified or you have not verified?
We will bring it back to council and notify council that we've double checked.
Okay, thank you.
Then how's that handled? Are we going to vote on that then tonight, or are we going to pull it to
No,
bring
you
it
can go
back?
ahead and vote on it, sir. You can go ahead and vote on it.
Okay.
We're just going to look at it. It's going to take me tomorrow to look at it. It'll be fine.
So we'll receive notification?
Yeah, you will.
Can you do that in writing?
Yes,
Okay,
it'll be
I mean,
done in writing. correct.
Okay, all right. A motion, Councilman?
Yeah, I want to go over, I want to make sure that before we go down this road, we know what we're getting into. If staff could go over what the cost is, and then if legal can opine as to how that's going to help us meet our bed requirement. Because my understanding that that's not the case, but it's a large commitment. Okay, so who wants to answer the question of how much it's going to cost us over a 3-year contract with Mr. Patel?
Councilmember Sanchez, Eddie, do you want to try and answer that one offhand, the amount of money? I mean, we can defer real quick to Sonia. Sonia, are there any issues from a legal standpoint?
Mayor and council member, or Mayor Pro Tem, and council members, while the city manager looks for the financial information, having a place for homeless to go when we do cleanups is important, but because these are not long-term, they are short-term stays, they would not be the same as a navigation center, for example. So this is a short-term, kind of a short-term fix to our problem. And as we build the navigation center that the city is going out for RFP on, as well as the $35 million that you received in the grant with Lutheran Social Services, as you work on those two projects, this is the bridge that's going to help us to be able to continue to do cleanups in the city.
So right now, there's a court injunction not allowing us to do the cleanups, but it's not because we don't have a hotel voucher program. It's because we don't have at least sufficient a number of beds with wraparound services, low barrier of entry, in order to satisfy a state judge or federal court judge in saying, hey, the city's moving in the right direction. I think it's case law that's already made it clear that the hotel vouchers will not count towards that. And on top of that, we have the court injunction from cleaning up these sites. So I don't know how spending this $2.5 million is going to get us closer to getting these people resheltered, as well as cleaning up the campsites where they are throughout the city.
Councilmember Sanchez, a couple different things. So the hotel vouchers is one aspect of the whole housing thing that we're trying to deal with the court. So we still need to do that irregardless of what we're doing with the navigation center. The court's going to hold us to providing temporary resources for the hotel vouchers, and they're going to look at the transitional services for the 6 months. So that's going to be the navigation center. So the cleanups will also come in there. We need to show progress being made on all of those fronts.
The court injunction doesn't make mention of a hotel voucher program. It mentions the what is it, number of beds with wraparound services and low barrier of entry. It mentions nothing about a hotel voucher program moving the city in the right direction to be able to enforce its no camping regulations. So I want to know how spending $2.5 million is going to get us closer to that, when that could be spent on the rapid reshelter that we're working on, and then the long-term solution, which is that, what are we calling it, the navigation center. So I want to understand how this investment of $2.5 million is going to help us get to the point where we can enforce our no camping rules.
Well, Councilmember Sanchez, it's going to remove some of those individuals off the current streets where they are now to provide some sort of subsistence for them. That has to happen. The court's going to see that. If that's not in there, that would have been part of the court injunction. But they already saw us moving in that direction.
That's already part of the court injunction.
Correct.
We cannot approach them and tell them, hey, go to this hotel, here's your voucher.
But we have to have the resources available. And if we didn't have them, it'd be another stipulation in the injunction.
Okay.
And so as we move forward, this is one aspect we have to maintain while continuing the navigation center. And hopefully by the end of this month, we'll hear from the court alleviating us from that injunction, allowing us to continue the cleanup. But we need to show positive movement somewhere.
My concern, and I may be convinced to do this, but I think we need to come back, and I think legal will need to opine. Legal knows this case inside and out. They're going to need to show us, and I think this would be good for us to have as part of the staff report and the backup. Look, council members, look, council, this is why we have to spend $2.5 million on the voucher program. Right here, line such and such and such and such in the court injunction, and per the words or the written text of the judge, this will help us get there. Because right now, I have nowhere that I can point in the staff report saying, hey, council, this $2.5 million is going to help us get to a place where we can get these people off the street and into a shelter with a bed. I don't see it, and I'd like for that to be pointed out. I haven't read the whole court injunction. I don't know if it's long or short, but I'm not convinced quite yet that that investment of $2.5 million is going to get us there. I haven't seen the text for that.
So I'm going to turn this over to Sonia here in a minute. However, I would say that part of this is that the advocates have picked on pieces of what the city has not been able to do. They have not picked up on this piece specifically, but if we don't do it, it'll happen again, even worse. So we need to continue what we're doing with the hotel voucher program on top of the navigation center and the wraparound services, on top of the cleanups when the court alleviates us. If we don't do this piece, we'll be back with the court, without a doubt.
Are you talking about the plaintiffs in this case?
We're talking about, yeah.
But the plaintiffs in this case don't mention anything about the hotel vouchers. They mention moving people off of these sidewalks and these cleanup sites. So what I would like, and I think this is where legal has done a very good job in the past of showing us, look, council, this is the instructions. You may be the bosses of the city, but the people that are magistrate judge or the judges in the circuit courts, they can hand down rulings that you will have to obey. There is no two ways about it. I just don't see it in front of me, and I want to make sure that those orders are clear to this council before we decide to invest this $2.5 million. Because right now, it looks like we're doing the voucher program, we're doing the navigation center, and then we're going to do that rapid reshelter. So that's three things. And when we pull towards one, we're pulling away from another. And this council has already has bought and paid for the navigation center. And so if we could just bring this back at the next meeting with clear detail as to this is why this is going to help us enforce our no camping rules, then we can be assured as a council that that $2.5 million is an investment towards getting these people off the street and into shelters and rehabilitated. Because right now, there was nowhere in the staff report that said this is going to help that.
Councilmember Sanchez, let me add this, and I'll have Sonia jump
Yeah.
in, that at this point in time, we do have some vouchers remaining outside of this that we can utilize. However, and this is a big however,
Yeah.
if the court currently has the case, we've already submitted it to them, if they see that we've not done anything in this area, we're going to end back up there again because of this hotel voucher program.
So but this is the thing, is that we're not in court in the first place because of the hotel voucher program. We're
Correct.
in court because of the camping cleanups.
That is correct.
And the thing is, we can't do the camping cleanups without the permanent shelter beds. The hotel vouchers are not the permanent shelter beds. So that's
Correct.
why if there's anything that we can use, because we have to justify to the
Correct.
taxpayers out there, we're going to spend $2.5 million. And I'm having conversations with people who tell me that $2.5 million doesn't get us 1 inch closer to being able to enforce our no camping rules. Because what you need for that is you're going to need the wraparound service at a low barrier, permanent shelter. And the hotel vouchers aren't that. Yeah.
Okay, so I think after listening, I was listening carefully, I think
Yeah.
I understand. There are two things we try to solve for. We try to solve for enforcing our no camping rules, for which we need to have at least beds that would serve 60% plus one. That's the standard we've used based on litigation both in Orange and LA counties. You probably read the headlines. That's what some of the federal court judges have said. That's to enforce no camping, meaning if an individual is laying on a sidewalk and we don't want them to lay there or laying in a park, we can't criminalize homelessness unless we get them a bed. So you're correct. I think where the difference is and what this is about is there's a difference between citing people for camping, on our public property, and being able to conduct our cleanups. And so what we did as we embarked on the cleanups and the parks, we did a really good job. Your staff did an excellent job. We sat down and strategized with them, and we said, in order to do your cleanups, you're going to have to provide a place for these people to go. And we gave them a bunch of options. We said you can do a low barrier shelter, you can convert a building, you can go put up a tent, you can do vouchers, but that's for the cleanup part of it. Do you see the difference? There's one of citing someone and saying it's a crime to be sleeping out here in public, for which we need to have a navigation center. And the other thing is just to do the cleanups, to temporarily move someone out of that area so that we can actually do the proper cleanup that we need to do. And the lawsuit is about the latter.
Yeah, the
Correct.
injunction is over the cleanup.
Exactly.
But the cleanup, we're not going to be able to do the cleanups by just saying, hey, we can clean up your space because we have a hotel voucher here for you. If they decide to stay, they can stay there, unless we have the permanent wraparound or the permanent beds at a shelter with low barrier of entry.
One of the plaintiffs in our current litigation raised the issue that although we took them to a hotel, that after 7 days, they were forced out of that hotel. And that's something that means that the service provider, we've also hired a company that does the services for you. There's going to be a lot of pressure on that service provider to get those people that are in the motels temporarily into more supportive and permanent housing out there. One of the things for the council to remember is that you have some amazing programs in your city that are not city or county run. They're private, nonprofit run, and so there is relationships between the people that are out there and moving people into some of those facilities. So what I would tell you is this: I believe that you have to have something, whether it's a permanent navigation center, which would be ideal, or whether it's a low barrier shelter where people just can go into a gym and lay on cots, whether it's a tent or whether it's a motel voucher. My advice is please have some of those beds so that we can do your cleanups. That's the bottom line.
We're already working on that. We have the shelter coming, and we have a rapid re-shelter plan that we're working on.
But if you don't have them in the meantime, we won't be able
We
to
can't-
advise staff to do cleanups.
But we can't do the cleanups anyways with the hotel vouchers. What I'm saying is that
In a
hotel
month, we'll be able
vouchers,
to do cleanups. We're hoping that in a month, the judge will rescind the order.
But you don't.
because of the hotel vouchers.
No, because we will have put into place a due process procedure for people whose property is.
So a policy in place to do the cleanups
Yes.
that a judge will be compelled is signaling from the city that we are doing our due diligence in order to ensure that these people have their rights.
Correct.
But the thing is, again, I'm trying to understand how the ingredient of the hotel voucher is going to help, because right now, I don't see how us presenting to the judge, hey, we're doing the hotel vouchers, can we now enforce our no camping? And he's going to say no.
So Councilmember Sanchez, let me add this, is that this money that's allocated right now has already been allocated by the state for housing vouchers. You all can't change that unless we go back to the state.
Where is this hotel voucher money coming from?
PLHA funding.
That's not what it says here.
It's PLHA funding.
It's not in the staff report.
It is in the staff report. It is.
It's under fiscal impact.
It's under fiscal impact. It's PLHA. So you guys will lose the funding.
And that funding can't be used for the navigation center.
Nope, you'd have to go back to the state to get it reprogrammed, and it's up to the state to decide what they want to do with it at that point in time.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So my question here is, why hasn't staff or yourself did the homework to find out whether or not these motels that we have chosen do not owe the city any funds through code enforcement violations, are in good standing? Because I just heard someone mention a name, and I know that the last conversation that we had and that name was mentioned, there were some negative connotations and some negative information that was put out there. I need to know that if we're entering into an agreement, because I don't care what motel it is, providing that the motel is clean, the motel is safe for us to put any resident inside of it, and that they do not owe the city any funds. And I just beg to differ. I'm thinking that this might not be the case here, and I definitely would have appreciated if that information would have been inside of the backup information.
Mayor, Councilmember Calvin, we rely on staff to do some of the work. So when it comes to us, we assume this has already been done, assuming not always correct. But this is why I mentioned to you, I will know by tomorrow, one way or the other, and to make sure that happens.
It's a question, though. If we pass this tonight, we've already passed that, and we don't have that information. And I just think that we need to.
Councilwoman Calvin, if I may, I just confirm with staff that through their vetting process, they verified with our business registration division that these businesses are in good standing with valid business license, and they're in good standing with the city. I can go specifically and verify the code enforcement question, but that review was conducted.
That's the question, and that was an issue with another motel that we were discussing prior
separate
to,
one, correct.
that there was code enforcement violations. So we don't want to be entering into any agreements with anyone that where there's code enforcement violations. Thank you.
Councilmember Alexander?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Quick question, when would this take effect?
Mayor, Councilmember Alexander, I think we're looking at maybe 60, probably 30 days for it to take effect.
Now, we approved this before for some other hotels.
Correct.
Has that taken effect?
Correct, yes, it has. All but one, which we removed.
I see Ms. Cersei out there. Can you tell us how effective that has been? How many people they have housed? How many people have gone back out on the street? And what wraparound services have done? Anything to that, can that be shared with us today?
Yeah, Councilmember Calvin. Alexander. The motel voucher program initially was paused. And it was paused because 2 of the motels were from locations outside of city limits. Actually, 2 were motels outside of city limits, and 1 was located on Hospitality Lane. Now, that motel owner did have his business license renewed. There are no outstanding issues. We were directed to not move forward with that location on Hospitality Lane, which left us with 1 motel, which was Motel San Bernardino, with 24 rooms. 24 rooms, that was it. No double bed capacity, just 24 rooms. So the city, we went ahead and reissued an expedited RFP, exclusively looking for local motel owners. And Mr. Andy Patel has 3 motels within city limits that will allow the city to have a total of 201 motel rooms. Now, following the guideline that Sonia just presented, that 60% plus 1 threshold, that allows the city to meet its threshold capacity for shelter beds. And there are other cities that use motels providing on-site supportive services and case management, and they are allowed to use those motel rooms to fulfill the role of a shelter bed. It's an interim interim shelter bed. That's the key.
So that's what we're saying, this is an interim.
Interim.
So the two hotels that were outside city limits, that has been put on pause as well?
That has been put on permanent pause until we hear further direction from the city manager.
And when were we going to let us know about that?
Mayor and council, we did notify the mayor and council that we were not moving forward with the two hotels outside the city limits because we were notified by those cities that we would probably end up in a legal forum with them.
Okay. And now, Ms. Cersei, you said that these hotels count toward the Boise numbers?
Yes.
I thought they didn't count toward the Boise
We have to
numbers.
be able to provide available beds, and we need to be able to provide services. So these interim motel the interim motel shelter program provides the bed, as well as the city providing case management services, and we're utilizing local nonprofits to fill in that gap. So it still will include substance abuse counseling. It still will include behavioral health, case management.
I got that part, but I thought the city attorney said that these don't count. Maybe I misheard.
Mayor, Councilmember Alexander, Boise accounts for the camping, the cleanup accounts for the hotel vouchers. Those two go together separately. So you're looking at,
Okay.
That's the way it works.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes, who is the contracted service provider to be providing the wraparound services for these folks?
So the city is working with our homeless outreach team, which is Hope the Mission, and they have an MOU agreement with the PARE team. I think that's PARE, but they're here in San Bernardino, and they're going to be providing medical oversight and case management services, and that's in coordination with our homeless outreach team.
Those fees are coming out of the same PLHA allocation?
No, actually, the PARE team is able to receive CalAIM reimbursement, and if you're familiar with CalAIM funding, homeless housing, shelters, healthcare are now billable through CalAIM, which is a subsidiary of Medi-Cal, and that's how they get reimbursed.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item to be pulled is number.
We haven't voted on this.
Okay, sorry.
Considering the sensitivity of this issue, I would either continue it to the next regular council meeting, or if we need to have a special meeting to discuss this, then that's what I want, because I'm not going to throw away $2.5 million that don't get us any closer to cleaning up our streets. I want to make sure that if, in fact, we are going to spend this $2.5 million, that we are going, that will allow us to start enforcing, or at least get us closer to being able to enforce our no camping rules, or our cleanups. We can't do the cleanups either. That's the issue. The injunction is over our cleanups.
Correct.
Yes, exactly. And we cannot do the cleanups until there are shelter beds.
We could use the voucher program for the
No.
cleanups.
No, we cannot. We cannot bother them unless we have a threshold of at least, 60, 70% of shelter beds relative to our homeless population.
A study session, should we add it to the study session?
Yeah, that's fine.
Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, we'll add it to the study session. I think, what date is that? The 26th, 7th? I just want to make sure that we have enough time, because I don't want to lose the funds from the state, because you can't reprogram them.
You can do it all the time. We have a substantial amendments to whether it's the CDBG, is it the CDBG funding, or is it the other one? There's two of them here.
Correct. I don't.
If it's the CDBG funding, we
believe
do
it is.
substantial amendments all the time.
I don't
I
believe it
just
is.
don't want to throw away the $2.5 million over something that's not going to get us to clean up the streets.
Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize, Councilmember Sanchez. If we do not move forward with the motel voucher program, the city definitely will lose its 2019, the remaining balance of its 2019 PLH allocation, which is approximately $1.1 million. And the reason for that is because the drawdown must be done by March 1st. There's no further extensions. As a matter of fact, just to add clarity, the state did not even want to initially allow the city to use the PLHA funds for the motel voucher program, because typically PLHA funds do not contribute towards the construction or operation of shelters. But the state made an exception for the city of San Bernardino. So they, excuse me, understood this program, they understood the value, and they gave us permission.
When's the deadline?
Excuse me. The deadline, sorry. Hold on.
You said March 1st? It's past us?
Oh, March 15th, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Calvin, followed by Councilmember Ibarra.
Mr. City Manager, you know what I would find to be quite helpful is if we would then be presented on where we actually are with our navigation center. I think that when we're speaking about funding that we're wanting to use, whether being allocated from PLHA or any other fund, I think that the main, what the community and what we are looking for is how close are we getting to actually having the navigation center. Now, I remember some conversation in another meeting that you stated, but what I want to hear is if that navigation center is not in our full view and we don't have any time frames set around that, with the funding being allocated, then we need to be looking at a more temporary, immediate structure so that we can continue to meet those numbers that we need to meet. So it can't be that we're just, as Councilmember Sanchez mentioned, throwing any funding, but I understand that this funding cannot be used for that. But we just need to have some parameters. You need to paint a better picture than what's being painted here tonight so that the community is clear, we're clear, how close are we, where actually are we? And I think that with San Bernardino being in the situation that we have been in for quite some time, with not being able to house our unsheltered, we need some immediate information to be brought to the dais so that we can be able to vote on this item with the breeze, knowing that we have the navigation center or a more temporary, immediate structure being in place.
Mayor, Councilmember Calvin, staff has been looking in other ways to provide wraparound services and more of a long-term solution for places for individuals that are homeless to stay. At this point in time, we do not have location. As you're aware, we did bring a method to you all. That has now gone away. The Navigation Center, I'll be more than happy to bring a presentation to you probably in a month, but right now we are currently working through the application process with the state. The whole process resides solely with the state, but we are working on the application process and all the details. When that gets accomplished by the state, I cannot tell you. When they award it, I cannot tell you, but it'll most likely be the end of this year. But we have to do our part in trying to get this, the application process.
Well, then an update would still surely be beneficial to all of us. Now, when we talk about an immediate temporary structure, there are other and multiple solutions that the city could utilize. I would like the staff to bring back some of those so that we can entertain them to be able to go forward and being able to provide immediate shelter to our unsheltered.
I appreciate it, Councilmember Calvin. We will look into it. We did look into your other ideas about the modulars. The cost of that was just unfathomable for us to do that with state money.
But we don't know that because you didn't bring that back to us.
No, but we know by looking at it.
But we need to know.
Okay.
We're the ones that's asking you the questions tonight. We need to know what it is that you're looking at and answers. If it's not unsurmountable, unfathomable, whatever the case may be, we're the ones that need to make that decision. So we would appreciate that information being brought to us.
As I said, Councilmember Calvin, we've been looking into it, so I'm not going to bring piecemeal information to you all. I'll bring it when it's complete.
When will that be?
When I'm complete with it, which I said about 30
So it's
days.
always, so it's not with the council. So do you see the problem that you have with item number 13 right now? Is that you're not giving us any other information of what you're seeking so that we can make the decision so that we would know that the $2.5 million that it's allocated right here for number 13 cannot be used for that, for a structure, but yet we are also working, here's some other information, council, we would like for you to entertain that would also be in our purview, our view, where we will be able to provide shelter to the unsheltered on a temporary basis.
Councilmember Calvin, this is time sensitive. This is why this came to you at this point in time. The rest of the items will come to you out in about 30 days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Ibarra?
Yes, thank you. I'm just listening, and I can't. I think the only word I can describe what I'm hearing right now is that I'm shocked, because us as legislators, we approved so much funding for the navigation center, for the tiny homes, mobile showers, and none of that has come back before us as being completed. It's been over a year since we approved it on our end. Right now, you were mentioning that the funding for the permanent local housing allocation funds, that was an extension we got or an approval from the state to use for the motel vouchers, and that concerns me because it's temporary housing, it's not permanent. When we're doing these changes and approvals, we all need to be notified as soon as possible. I want to second Councilmember Sanchez and bring this back. If it's that urgent that we have to do this by March 15th, I would like to recommend maybe a special meeting on Friday with all the update from staff of where we're at with the navigation center and all the funding that we have approved and where we're at with all of it. And that's information that city staff should be able to provide. I'm just very concerned, especially when we have so many beds available. Why can't we just offer that funding to those agencies that have reported beds available for services? Why are we doing the motel vouchers? So those are just some questions that we have for a special meeting as soon as possible.
Can't do it Friday.
Any other comments by the council members? Is there, I believe there's a motion or?
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible. This happens way too often here, that we're pondering whether to approve something or not, and then in the 11th hour, staff says, well, you have to approve it now because in 3 days, it's past the deadline. I mean, that happens so often here. It happens at least once a month, and it just happened now. You guys saw it in real time. We were debating. This whole thing goes out the window now, because now it went from being, we're going to lose $2.5 million to now we're going to lose $1.5 million of state money. That changes the conversation.
Yeah. Mayor, Councilmember.
We might as well approve it. But believe me, I cannot stand, and I'm sure my colleagues feel the same way, how often this happens to us. Where in the 11th hour, staff says, well, your back's against the wall, you have to approve it. Otherwise, we lose millions of dollars of state or federal funding. That happens way too often, and it just happened now again.
Councilmember Sanchez, you're absolutely correct. Since I've been here, there have been a number of projects and programs, federal grants, that we've lost in the millions. And that's what we're trying to get on top of now. And it's no staff's fault, we're just trying to get through it.
So I think the fact that we're on this really short timeline changes the conversation. So I will move to approve, but I'm hoping that city manager, yeah, we have to approve this. We're not gonna, I don't know, if you guys want to make a motion to have a special meeting, but I would approve. I would move to approve today. But please, staff, city manager, be advised that we don't want to be in this predicament again.
Councilmember Sanchez, I totally agree with you, so does staff as well. But to my previous comments, I will make sure by the first meeting in April that you guys have a real breakdown of where we're at on every project in regards to housing coming from the state, whether it's our navigation center, hotel vouchers, or whatnot, because we have been spending a considerable amount of time trying to track down all the money and revenues and where we spent them thus far.
Yeah, and look, if you guys are going to fly past that deadline, at least let us know by the deadline that you need more time. I know the electeds have all been briefed now on a rapid reshelter plan that was in place, and we had set a deadline of, I think, second meeting in February, and that has come and gone, and I don't think any of us know where that ended up. So we need to make sure that we get these updates in a timely manner.
Thank you,
So
Councilmember.
I'll move to approve.
There's a motion, the motion to approve the staff's recommendation.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra?
No.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem? Councilmember Reynoso?
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1 with Councilmember Ibarra voting in opposition.
Thank you. And the next pulled item, I believe, is that 14? 15. And Councilmember Alexander?
Thank you, Mayor. Who's going to address this one? Hi. I remember, and thank you for this report, but when we did the first phase of this American Rescue Plan funding, it was for $10,000, a minimum of $10,000, right? And now I see here that it says on the page, award amount, any gross over $50,000. And that was the minimum requirement, was $50,000. You got $10,000 to $35,000. That's what the council approved. Who said to reduce the amount? Because the council didn't say reduce the amount. The council said reduce the required amount of the 50,000 to 25,000. So who defied the, I won't use that word, defied the council. Who changed it?
So staff used other programs from the state, from the county, from other communities to align in parity with what the funding was. So we were looking at that 50,000 mark, and if we had started it at that $10,000 grant award, that'd essentially be awarding a business that makes $50,000 a fifth of their annual income at one point in time.
Who told you guys to change it without coming back to the council? Because the council told you and said $10,000. Why didn't you come back to us to ask to change it?
So this is that point in time that we're coming back. We did communicate with previous administration on the program. We had taken it through the appropriate routes. So this would be that point in time that we're having that conversation.
So you
But
didn't
this
bring
is
it
just
back
based
to the
off of,
council.
pardon?
So why didn't it come back to the council to change? Because the council gave directive of how it's supposed to be, and it didn't come back to the council when you changed it. So can someone answer me that? Because we gave directive of how it was supposed to be, and now it's changed, and in consent calendar at that too.
Councilmember Alexander, I don't believe that staff has changed the direction. It's a recommendation that staff is bringing forward for your consideration.
Then why is it on, should be a discussion item then? So why don't you just
I don't
take-
have a good answer about the placement on the agenda. You know, that becomes a judgment call when the agenda is prepared. We did not consider this a controversial item. It's staff's recommendation. You know, if you want modifications to the framework that staff is recommending, then we're more than happy to take those or bring the item back if you would like.
But our directive was clear. You changed our directive.
Councilmember Alexander, your direction has not been changed. We did not implement a program outside of the authority that was given to staff. What you do have before you is a staff recommendation that is out of alignment with what the council's direction is, but council provides direction, staff provides recommendations, and it's up to the council to decide on the staff's recommendation.
This is not a recommendation. Because it's in consent. It's not a recommendation.
All of it is a recommendation.
No, ma'am, not when it's in consent. It's not a recommendation. Council said $10,000, $10,000 to $35,000 for those up to $50,000. I'm here for the small businesses, what we're trying to do. And council said it would be $10,000 to $35,000. That's what we said. Then we said we're going to lower the required amount to $25,000 to help more small businesses. That's what the council said. And that being done, then the small business grant, the one that you have for $2,500, should be $5,000 if we're talking about recommendations to help people, because this doesn't do anything for a small business in San Bernardino to help folks. It doesn't do anything. That's why we started out at $10,000 more than any other city, because we're here to help folks. So if we're taking recommendations, I don't know if I can do this, Madam City Attorney, then I would like to revert it back to what it was of council's original directive.
You can absolutely do that,
Yeah,
sir.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, then
Yeah.
I make a motion that we change it back to what it was of $10,000 for $50,000 and up, and then those under $50,000, $5,000.
There is a motion by Councilmember, so prior to moving forward with that, Mayor Pro Tem? followed by Councilmember Sanchez.
So what you said, so that I'm clear on this, is that we could be giving someone that their gross sales, their gross revenues for a year is $50,000, and we're giving them $10,000, which is 1/5 of their sales. Is that, and so you're recommending that that doesn't seem appropriate? Is that what did I understand you say something?
So
along-
appropriate or not, it's not necessarily in line with what other communities are doing. So if I understand it, 50,000, under 50,000 would get 5,000. If you had, let's say, $50,001, then you would get that $10,000, which would essentially equate to, yes, 1/5 of your gross revenue.
And
Pardon? Correct.
Councilmember, please, let's just have one councilmember speak at a
well,
time.
and then, but you're doing this based on, kind of on best practices, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to follow what everyone else is doing. But you've given this some thought and you've checked how other cities are handling it, and what you're recommending tonight, and albeit maybe it should have been a discussion item, that is another issue that can be discussed at a later date or can be dealt with, whether this should be a discussion item or a consent item. You folks made a judgment that this is non-controversial, and it's turning out that it may be a little bit more discussion than was planned, which is fine, and we're still doing it. So we always, even with a consent item, have the ability to pull an item and say, this is not ready for prime time, or we don't like your recommendation, and so you shouldn't have put it on the consent calendar, and we're not going to support it. So I have a tendency to kind of follow the recommendation of the professionals that are paid to do the work daily. I do not feel like you're ignoring our direction, but in fact, you're doing the research and coming back with recommendations. So,
Councilmember Charette, if I may, I think one of the reasons staff was looking at this was to spread a wider net. That some of the applications we got, and we got complaints that they didn't qualify for this or didn't qualify for that. So staff reduced them, spread a wider net. That's not saying we still can't do the other amounts, but we're trying to reach out more to businesses by casting that wider net.
and I support that theoretically as well. And so anyway, those are my comments, and I don't know if there's going to be a recommendation to approve or not. I'm going to wait and see.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Reynoso.
Thank you. I appreciate what you're trying to do. I hear you out totally. We want to make sure that that number is higher than what it is here. But I did the math. The spread is like 80 people could, or businesses could receive it. But I know some businesses that this wouldn't do much for. So do you have the numbers handy of how many businesses received the small business grant in the first round?
Yeah, so the first round was 105, but it was nonprofits and our small business community as well. So that spread out. We had 425,000 remaining. So that spread out over, correct, 105 in total in the first round.
Is there more funding eligible through our ARPA allocation to put towards this?
So the remaining funding from that first round that didn't get allocated to the businesses because they didn't complete the training program, they didn't provide their documentation.
I'm talking about outside of this program allocation. We put $3 million towards exactly what you're talking about. I'm talking about, is there out of the 77?
That would be a question for finance, whether or not there would be remaining funds left over. This is specifically from that first initial amount allocated.
No, I understand. Can anybody, Barbara or?
Councilmember Reynoso, I believe there's in the ballpark of $2 million left.
Total?
Yeah, of the assignment for small businesses. And I think that's why staff.
For small businesses,
yeah,
total.
That's why staff was trying to expand the outreach for the business.
So really there's like $2.5 million almost
I
left?
believe so. We'll have to do that.
We
but I
should do,
believe so.
no. You got staff shaking their head. You're telling me one thing, staff's.
I think.
Because if that's what's left,
So
we should do the same thing
The
again.
program was $2 million allocated initially for this program.
3.
This is that remaining.
425 out of the 3 million.
Correct.
Originally allocated.
Correct, yes. And then we use the other $2 million for the ERC.
The ERC, correct.
Yes.
So it's just 425, that's it. No more ARPA funds that can be allocated towards this.
Councilmember Reynoso, we do have ARPA funds, but they're isolated, and when we bring things back, you'll see there's some set aside for the navigation center, so we're not.
How much is loose is what I'm asking you.
I'm sorry?
How much is loose? How much is unallocated?
None.
Okay. That's what I need to know. It would only go to 17 businesses, but I am in favor of we just finishing out the program like as it was. Yeah. And we've already given you a list of businesses. I've contacted you directly about businesses who could benefit from this. So could you repeat your motion again, Councilman Alexander?
My motion was to go back to the original $10,000 for any business that makes $50,000 up to $2.5 million, and any business under $50,000 to have $5,000 grant awardee.
So 10 and 5.
Correct.
Dang. It used to be higher. It was 10 and 35.
It was $10,000 to $35,000. It was a sliding scale.
So we're not doing the scale. You want to do 10 and 5?
Yeah, just 10 and 5.
I'll second the 5,000 and 10,000 limits.
Okay.
Okay, there's a motion second by Councilmember Sanchez.
Yeah, I was gonna, I guess, voice the same opinion. 5,000, 10,000, with the limitations on the gross income per year. So if that's second already, I'll vote yes.
Madam City Clerk, can you repeat the motion and we'll call for the votes?
A motion by Councilmember Alexander to return the grants to the previous levels approved by council, which will total out to 10,000 for some businesses and 5,000 for others. I apologize, I don't have the
Over
range.
50,000.
Okay.
Anything over 50,000, 10,000. Anything less than 50,000, 5.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem? Councilmember Reynoso?
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next, pulled item number 16, Councilmember Ibarra. Or Sanchez, I'm sorry.
It wasn't pulled, so I don't know if we voted on it already or not, but it was just a question. So wait, was it pulled?
It was pulled, but.
Okay, all right, well, it was mostly a question. I want to know, and this is where I'd prefer you give us more information than not enough. I had to go and ask around where the 101B suite is at Vanner Tower.
It's right out the front door.
Yeah, so really a shout out to the security guard who always greets us with a big
Joe.
smile. Joe, yeah, Joe. He gave me a tour of this place. Then I asked him, well, who's going to be here? He said, well, you guys. I said, well, who? So I'd like to ask you right now, who's going to be in that space?
So it's a combination of individuals in that space. Susie, do you want to?
It's where the sun used to be, yeah.
Yes, it's going to be a couple of divisions from HR as well as some finance.
HR and finance?
Correct.
And they're just expanding, right? So they're not going to be vacancies where they are now?
Right. So what we were looking to bring to the first floor is benefits as well as recruitment. That tends to generate the most traffic. And then finance to the first floor as well.
Okay. Because that's $1.8 million over 3 years, I think, right? In additional cost to the city.
Councilmember Sanchez, yeah.
I want to make sure that you guys can give us a thumbs up that this is going to be money well spent. Because it's a lot of money. It's
Yes.
$1.8 million for 3 years.
Councilmember Sanchez, Mayor, if I may. So as we look at going into City Hall in the future,
Yeah.
a lot of these payments where you guys are making lease payments to another building you don't own are going to be the bond payments. So what we're trying to do now down there is staff needs to expand
Yeah.
because now we're growing, but we're not doing any TI improvements down there other than cleaning and touching up with, so that way we're not spending more money for
You're
it.
spending $100,000 on tenant improvements.
Carpet, that's just basic carpets and stuff like that. It's not the remodel.
I'll sell you carpet for cheaper. All right, thanks. Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and second. Please call for the votes.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem? Councilmember Reynoso?
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That is all. Now we will convene into closed session. The time is being 6:12 p.m. To be held today, West 6th Street, San Bernardino, California, 92401. Open session will begin at 7 p.m. I call to order the regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council at 7:04 p.m. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Here.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem is off the dais. Councilmember Reynoso,
Here.
Councilmember Calvin,
Present.
Councilmember Alexander,
Here.
Mayor Tran.
Here. At this time, public comments will be heard for items 1 through 2 on the regular meeting agenda and items not on the agenda. To address the City Council, everyone must complete a speaker card and provide it to the City Clerk. Only those speaker cards turned into the City Clerk will be allowed to address the City Council. No late cards will be accepted. Each person should state their name for the record. Please note that at 8 p.m., we will pause public comment and proceed with the public hearings. Public comments will resume after the closing of the last public hearing. If you require Spanish interpretation, we do have an interpreter on site. Please raise your hand at this time to indicate whether you need translation assistance. In addition, we have interpreting listening devices available in the back.
En este momento se escucharán los comentarios públicos. Para dirigirse al Consejo Municipal, cada individuo debe completar una tarjeta de orador. Se debe completar la tarjeta de orador y entregarla a la secretaria municipal en este momento. Solo aquellas tarjetas de orador entregadas a la secretaria municipal podrán dirigirse al Consejo Municipal. No se aceptarán tarjetas tardías. Cada persona debe indicar su nombre para el registro. A las 8 p.m. pasaremos a las audiencias públicas y completaremos el resto de los comentarios públicos después de cerrar la última audiencia pública. Si necesita interpretación en español, tenemos un intérprete presente. Por favor, levante la mano en este momento para indicar que requiere servicios. También tenemos aparatos disponibles para escuchar la Junta en español. Si no recibimos solicitud para los servicios de interpretación antes de las 9, el intérprete se retirará. Gracias.
Gracias, thank you. Should be noted, Mayor Pro Tem Charette has returned to the dais. And at this time, we have 23 speakers. Madam City Clerk? Each speaker will have 3 minutes.
Esmeralda Negrete, Gregory Taylor, Ricky Brown, Dolores Armstead, Al Palazzo.